All right, y'all. I am so excited about this session. Today we are going to go over best practices for teeing up Talkadot. The way we're going to accomplish this goal is we have some really, really awesome Talkadot speakers that are going to showcase how they tee up Talkadot. Now you'll notice similarities, you'll notice differences, and then what I'm going to do after they tee it up is I'm going to ask them a couple of questions. I want to make sure that, like, if there's anything that I think is really particularly interesting or curious that I want to bring to your attention, that you all can see that. And the reason why this is so important is because you've probably heard me say this a million times, and I'll say it a million times again. Talkadot is like chords on a piano. You can use those chords to play rock and roll. You can use those chords to play funk. You can use those chords to play R&B. You can use those chords to play pop, jazz, and like the way that you do this. It's all music, but you can make it your own, right? We have some best practices, like a song, it's got like a hook, it's got a verse, it's got a chorus, it's got all those kind of things. There's certain things in it. And I like to share those best practices, but there is more than one way to do it. And some people might do it exactly the way I do it. They just put their own flavor on it. So I wanted to create this so that this can be a resource for everyone here, so that you can see how other people do it. Then we're going to have some people who are going to showcase what they do, and who have questions and want some coaching. That's going to be particularly interesting for everyone on this call because if you're interested in asking questions or refining it, you might notice a lot of the same questions you have are the same questions that these folks are going to be asking. And this is going to be something that we're going to cut up, we're going to put in the community. It's going to be really, really wonderful. Before we begin, I would like to start by reading the Talkadot Manifesto. Some of you have seen me talk about the manifesto many times. Some of you may never have heard of it. I want to read this to you because this is the document we created to explain who we are, what we do, what we stand for, and what Talkadot is all about. And it's important that all of us are living these values. This is not just a software tool that we are using. This is not just about making a bunch of money. It's much more than that. And we want you to do really, really well because the more you succeed, the more you use our tool, the more we help you use our tool, the more you succeed. It's a really wonderful give and take relationship. But this is what we stand for. So this is our manifesto. We are a community of professional speakers that view speaking as an honored craft that deeply impacts lives. This is a skill that we constantly care about getting better at and perfecting. It's an infinite game that we can constantly get better at. That's why we get feedback. We know we're never done getting better. We know there's always another level, and we endlessly pursue that next level. Where others dial it in, we go to the next level. We realize that we should do everything we can to ethically grow our business because the more we speak, the more lives we impact. We believe doing well while we do good in the world go hand in hand. We have big visions, but we take big action too. We share our impact with the world not because it's about showing how great we are, but about showing the greatness in the audience we help create. We are constantly perfecting our craft and are humble enough to know there's always more to learn. We have an abundance mindset and know there is so much opportunity in this industry, in this world, so we always lift as we climb. Because of this, we are different. We are unicorns. We are Talkadot. So this is what we do. This is what we stand for. This is a big part of everything that I care about. So I'm super, super, super excited to have you all here. And we are going to jump into some of the fun stuff here. Now, thank you all for your applicants, for your applications. We got a whole bunch of applications, which was really, really actually wonderful to see so many people wanting to do it. We're probably going to have to do a second one of these. So because we received so many, we're not able to choose everyone. So if you weren't chosen to showcase or to get your questions answered, it is nothing personal. It is nothing against you. It's just the luck of the draw. We might probably do more of these to get all of the people in. Okay. If you do want to apply for a future showcase, if you're on here and you're not selected today, and you're like, no, I really like, I got some good stuff that's going to help elevate the group. That link that I just put in the chat, you can go ahead and put that in, fill that out, and then we'll be able to keep you on the kind of on deck, if you will. And if you want some coaching on how to tee it up for your unique situation, the second link that I put in with coaching, go ahead and click on that. You can fill that out. It'll have on deck, and we will work with you to make sure that you're as successful as you can be. Okay. If you have any questions for us, type the word question in the chat before you ask your question. And we have our incredible team here. We've got Marissa and we've got Jess and other members of our Talkadot team that are with us. If you type in the word question, they're going to be able to scan the chat, because sometimes the chat gets so popping and so bubbly that it's hard to keep track of questions, and we don't want any to get missed. So if you do have a question that pops up, type in the word question and then put it in, and it'll be easier for our team to be able to flag those, and then we'll be able to do that. So it's gonna be fun. Oh my gosh, I gotta show y'all this, and I swear we're gonna jump in next. So Sammie Walker Herrera, get ready. You're going up first. So we're gonna have Sammie, then we're gonna have Amy Narishkin, then we're gonna have Jason Brooks, and then Lisa Hammett, and then Dan Faill. Okay, so that's the order we're gonna go. So Sammie, get ready. I am gonna call you up. Before I do that, I gotta make sure y'all all know about this feature. If y'all don't know about this, this is, oh my gosh, I'm excited about everything we do, but I gotta tell you from personal experience, this is something that I'm super excited about. So we have this new feature that we just launched, where when people give you feedback, they're also going to have the ability to give you more information if they want to book you to speak. This is very important. So let's say someone says, do you book speakers? Yes. Do you want to book Jason? Yes. Give me your contact information. Then we ask them, tell us more information about the event you want to book Jason for. So in your booking category, if you see this black flame for now it's a black flame. If you see this black flame, know that that person answered that question, and it's going to be right there. So you're going to be able to look into your bookings and go, oh, this person wants to book me, and it's going to help you qualify those bookings more. So for example, if someone answers, oh, you're an amazing speaker, thanks so much, to this question, they probably aren't like a legit lead. But if they say, we have a staff development training in October and we want to book you, now you know what the event is about and you can reach out to them. So this is going to be surfaced up here. And if you go over to your talk section and click on the 3 dots and go to download your leads right here, and you download the leads, then you'll be able to actually see that as a CSV file, as an Excel spreadsheet, and that information is in that spreadsheet as well. So it's really, really cool, really exciting. I wanted to make sure that you saw that feature. So if you see the black flame, that is very, very exciting. Look at it, get those details. We just launched that. So if you see anything in the past that isn't black, it's because we didn't exist until now. So it exists now. So moving forward, all of this will be greatly beneficial for all of you. So super, super excited about that. Okay, with that being said, we're gonna jump in with Sammie here. Sammie, can you unmute yourself and say hi so I can spotlight you?
Hello, everyone. Hi, I'm Sammie Walker Herrera, and thank you, Aurel, for bringing me on.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. Thank you. You got your own virtual background. You're making me want to get one of those. That's very nice. Very nice. All right, so Sammie, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to pretend we're in your audience, okay? So everybody here is now transformed into one of your audience members. You're teeing up Talkadot. If you do anything on a preamble side earlier, you can let us know what it is. But if you can go into the process on how you tee it up and then go through it, that the floor is going to be yours. Do you need anything from me before you jump in?
All I need is screen share access.
You now have screen share access.
Okay. Share, and then present full screen. That should work here. Alrighty, everyone. And you can see the screen, no extra chat and whatnot?
We can see it. It says Lesson 2 Live Coaching.
Alrighty, so we're gonna get started here. Okay, everyone, this now concludes the live coaching component of our presentation. So from this hour-long presentation, we spent about 35 minutes really focusing or laser focusing on about 5 folks within your organization on different things that they can develop in their public speaking skills. Now, naturally, I can imagine the question that's in your head right now. Okay, cool. I got feedback, or I was able to evaluate one of my colleagues and their speaking pros, their speaking cons, but how do I improve my public speaking after this event? What I find is that confidence is built from practice. It's very key to make sure that not only are you aware of the areas you can improve, but you're also building up on your speaking strengths. And one of the best ways to do that is to have consistent speaking practice. Now, before I go into a couple of the key tools that I use with my clients to develop their public speaking confidence, what I would love for y'all to do is take about 2 minutes or so to give me some feedback on this presentation here. Now, I know some of you are on mobile, so I'm going to include the link to that in the chat as well. So you'd scan this QR code or use the link in the chat to provide some feedback about this live coaching session. Now, if you do it, make sure if you use this, use the code y'all, you'll be able to have access to my Confidence Boost playlist. And if there's any specific songs that you think should be in the Confidence Boost playlist, let me know in the chat and I'll make sure to add it there. So I'm going to turn off my video for a quick second just to get a little bit of water. And so you have some time to share some feedback. Okay, don't think I forgot about you. I'm back here. And so let's go into a couple of the tools that you can use to further develop your public speaking. If you haven't finished this, don't worry, you still have time to submit some feedback after our presentation today. So one of the first tools I highly recommend that we use today is the random question generator. This tool allows you to generate some random questions, some a little bit more professional, some a little bit more fun, so that you can continue developing your public speaking skills. So I challenge you to set yourself some time, maybe about 20 minutes, to answer about 8 random questions here. Now, the next tool I recommend, and I use this with my clients, especially when we are developing a baseline for their public speaking skills, is called Udly. Udly is an AI speech coach that does have a free version where you're able to submit about 15 or so practices. So you may be practicing for an interview, for a negotiation, you may be working with a public speaking coach like myself, and you want to get more of a sense of how your speaking is coming across and get data on things like your fillers, your pacing, weak words, and also possible follow-up questions folks in your audience may ask you. So highly recommend both random question generator as well as Udly. So now as we conclude our presentation, I'm going to leave it open for Q&A, and I'll pop some of my contact information in the chat so you're able to follow up with me after this presentation. And for anyone who wasn't able to finish up or start the feedback form, feel free to scan it now. End scene.
Awesome. All right, the crowd goes crazy. Let's get a round of applause. Virtually, maybe add some emojis, throw it in the chat, give Sammie some love. This was really, really wonderful. There are a couple of things I want to point out about what you did that I absolutely loved, and I want to bring it to people's attention. I think people caught this, but in case you didn't, I want to point it out. I love the fact that the thing that you gave away was a confidence booster playlist, but you asked people, this is the playlist I have. Let me know if you think there's something to be added. I almost guarantee you that is one of the biggest reasons. Not one of, you did a great job presenting and you have good content. So like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying in how you tee it up. There's that curiosity of like, I saw someone in the chat put, oh, you better have Earth, Wind, and Fire on, so there's always going to be that curiosity of, is my go-to song going to be on the list? I want to see what she has. And oh, someone took all the time to curate a list for me. So by creating hey, I created this list and then posing the question of, let me know if you think there should be something added or something that's missing. the curiosity to get people to the other side of that is super high. So I love, love, love that. And then when you said, I'm gonna give you time to do that, and you shut off your screen and you said you're gonna get water, I actually think that's brilliant. I think that's actually really, really smart, because people were like, oh, like this is very intentional time here. Let me do that. And if her camera's off, then the moment her camera came on, that was kind of like if she was in person, that's like walking off stage and walking back on stage. So that was great. And then when she turned the camera back on, she said the phrase, "Don't think I forgot about you." And I thought it was such a wonderful way to tee it back up. And then she re-introed the slide as she did went into the Q&A to give people another chance to scan Talkadot. So I just wanted to point those out because I thought everything you did was really smooth, but those things really, really stood out to me. And I just really, really love that. Is there anything that you want to mention about what you notice about this process that may not be apparent from the outside, but you see it because you're playing inside baseball?
Yeah. So one thing that I do that helps me is I have a separate document with the things that I copy and paste and put in the chat. And I very specifically make sure to put that Talkadot link because it's very often we'll have folks on mobile who can't scan a QR code because they're on their phone. So I make sure to include that not only the first time I tee up the Talkadot, but I also tend to do that at the end as well. I found time and time again that I'm getting more detail and more feedback. And some folks who've pretty much wrote an entire essay because they knew they could have the time to do so as well. I also just time and time again, folks right before I tee up the Talkadot, they say things like, "Oh, well, how do I continue working on my speaking? Are there any specific tools?" So I make sure I kind of gatekeep that for a quick second because I know they want to stay on to hear about those tools.
Yeah, and I really, really think that it's cool that you're positioning these like little quick wins, right? Like Udly, and those are like quick wins that people can get like a boost of dopamine from.
Mhm.
And you also said something there that I found to be true all the time, and I've seen this in my own speaking business. The more intentional time that you can give your audience, the better your testimonials will be.
Mhm.
You'll always get, if you're someone who's like, hey, I could really use some like really dope testimonials for my website, or this client was really important to me, I want to like impress them, or if there's anything like that, that intentional time creation always will give you, people fill the space you give them. So if you go, fill it out, all right, it's been about 22 seconds, let's move on, you're going to get a lot of, it was good. But if you
Yep.
give a little bit more space, like she was saying, you're going to get some really, really nice things there. Really nice things.
Yeah. And so another thing to keep in mind, like inside baseball, like you said, is you really have to have your time management solid for that presentation. If you have an hour, you need to end by an hour, which means you need to carve in those 2 minutes for the Talkadot. Now, oftentimes, like especially if it's a company or you're hosting for an association, there might be some folks who have longer questions or stick around, but there's some folks who they have another meeting right after that one. So you want to make sure your time management is solid and that you're not keeping people longer because you had a 2 minute Talkadot pause.
That's right. Yeah. And time management is always crucial. Knowing when you're going into it. Sometimes as speakers, we feel the moment and we go deep into it and we keep talking. So, and sometimes you got to, talk it out a little bit shorter than you might like. But the more you can get a sense of, I'm coming into my close, knowing how long your close takes, like
Mhm.
post talk a dot, knowing what that normally takes and creating that intentionality in space, um, is going to be super important. That all be all different. Any other insider baseball, Sammy? Before we say thank you. And one of the questions Daniel asked was there any reason you opted to not play a song from your playlist while you were playing it? Was there any intentionality there, or no?
Yeah, I would say not specific intentionality. I know oftentimes when you stream on Zoom, you can hit like play a sound. And so sometimes it's a little, I forget to do that, or it's just not something
Mhm.
that I've thought of previously as well. I think that could be helpful to just like increase some energy, like even say, here's a sample from the playlist. And then of course that
Yep.
draws some more curiosity for folks as well. So I think that's a really great idea. I think the
One,
only other thing I want to make sure is that it's not too loud for folks, right?
yeah, one of my favorite things to say to people, if you ever if you ever want to use this, is if you do decide to play music from the playlist, I would say I'm going to play for you my second favorite song from the playlist right now, and then do it. Because everyone's going to say, what? Well, what's your first favorite song? So it
What's your
creates
least
that.
favorite?
Yeah, it's going to create some curiosity around that. So I'm like, I'm going to play my second favorite song from it. And then by nature, people are going to be like, what, like, how do you, like, what's your favorite, or whatever the case may be. So I think that's really awesome. And for anyone who would like to use some music when you speak, and like obviously you can look at her playlist in the Talkadot community, is the music that I use when I sometimes I use music, sometimes I don't. That link has a link to an MP3 that you can download and insert. And I like it because it's 3 minutes long and it has a countdown ticker at the end. So it's got smooth jazz. It's really nice. And then in the last like 10 seconds, it goes tick, 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 and then close. So like that's just mood music I found on YouTube. But if anyone needs music, or if you want the playlist from Sammie, reach out to Sammie. Sammie, if you could throw your LinkedIn profile, if you feel comfortable, or Facebook or Instagram,
Yeah, I'll also pop my email down
and
there.
email in the chat. That sounds
Then I
great.
can send y'all the confidence boost playlist.
Ooh, there we go. Sammie, out here doing what we call walk-off home runs in the baseball biz. Thank you for that walk-off home run. We appreciate you. And I'm sure if anyone has any questions about speaking, you should definitely hit up Sammie right there.
Perfect. Thank you, Arel.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. Oh, for those of you who are signed up for coaching, just for clarity, we're doing the showcases first and the coaching second. So we're going to go to Amy Narishkin next. And then after we do that, we're going to do the coaching folks. So if you know who you are for the coaching, I'll do your names after the showcase. But no, we remembered everyone. So let's go to Amy. Can you unmute yourself and say hello so I can spotlight you?
Sure, I can. Thank you.
There you go, Amy. Here we go. Let's get a spotlight going. Bam. All right. The same rules apply. Do you need anything before we tee it up, or we're just gonna let you jump in?
Let's just jump in. Thank you, Arel. Am I saying your name correctly, Arel?
Arel. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank
Perfect.
you. I
All
appreciate
right,
it.
so we're all gonna now become an audience member for Amy. Amy, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Arel, may I share?
Yes, you may.
Okay. So I've used Talkadot 3 times, and I'm a career-long educator. I work with organizations and their leaders who want to be confident communicators so that they can attract and retain diverse talent. And I can take full advantage of my white skin and help people get comfortable talking with people they think are different. And so my programs tend to be educational. And what I'll share with you is a few of my slides. And what ends up happening is that people want to take copious notes. So I'll give you a sample. Let's see if I can take it to, I apologize. Here we go. When people are trying to understand what culture is, we just give them a graphic organizer, and you can see that I started my career as a 5th grade teacher. Culture's got this visible and invisible aspect, and people think it's such a big deal because what a personality is to a person, a culture is to a group of people. Because it's a group, we tend to think culture is too big to change, and we think we're powerless to change it. But what we don't realize, culture's built one encounter at a time. And so in my upcoming slides, I'm teaching people how to talk with people one encounter at a time. And that obviously creates organizational change. These are some of the slides that I speak to, and people want to take copious notes. And what I do is I end up telling them, you don't have to take notes. What we're going to do is you're going to give me a little feedback, because that's the only way I'm going to get better. And I'm going to give you my slides. So it's just that simple. And here are the 3 tools that you're going to get. And STOP is an acronym. When you're talking with somebody you think is different, whether that's because of race, religion, or generation, or gender, doesn't matter. You're going to slow down, take 3 deep breaths, observe your feelings and that assumption that pops up. And if you're safe, proceed into that conversation with curiosity and wonder. This is where your power lies, and this is how you don't put your foot in your mouth. You don't have to be the knower. In dominant white culture in the US, we often honor the speaker and not the listener. And here we're going to shift. So you're going to listen for understanding rather than listen to be right, listen to speak. or do like Garfield does and not listen. And then hear them out, get their story. And then when you're listening, appreciate at least in part something that they say and paraphrase what they just said. And then you can credit your idea too. This is how we create the win-win. There's much more context here, but this gives me the opportunity to say, okay, there's just no way that you're going to be able to capture all that. So I want you to have the slides. And it's really wonderful at the beginning. I see people put their pencils down and relax. And by the time we get here, this program has been interactive. We've had 2 and 3 minutes of silence as people write down their answers and then share. So by the time I get here and ask people to take out their phones and do me a favor and give me some feedback so that I can get better and better at helping people feel confident, it's just fine that we've got another 2 minutes of silence. And like you, Sammie, I go get a drink of water. So far, I've done everything in person, and I get probably 60% of the audience giving me great feedback. So
if you want to transition, like imagine, now that we know how you do it, actually imagine we're your audience and like transition us into this slide as if you were talking to us like we were your audience.
oh, okay. So go with the, well, I kind of did.
Okay.
What I said was, here's your opportunity to grab the slides, and to get the slides, I could really use some feedback and dropping into silence. So Americans can handle about 4 seconds of silence. And when you show them that you're going to give them the time, and I tell them, you got 2 minutes, and then we'll move into what's one thing you can do differently now that you have these tools. Yeah.
So, so this is good. So if I grasp what you're saying is earlier in your presentation, you're doing interactive things where they're writing things down. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Okay,
Yep.
so this is actually really, this is actually a really great tip here that I kind of want to point out to everyone.
Thank you.
So the more comfortable people are with an action, the easier it is for them to actually do that action again. So when I'm hearing Amy or Doctor, do you prefer Doctor? What's your preference here?
Because I'm typically working in mixed race spaces and in Black and Hispanic spaces, I go by my title. I've
Okay.
gone to Dr. Amy.
So Dr. Amy, all right. I want to always in high school, I had a teacher who was named Dr. Peters, and I called him Mr. Peter once, and I got the greatest lecture of my life that I'll never forget. So whenever I see someone with a PhD or EDD or DO or whatever, I'm like, how you want me to call you? Because I still got this memory from my childhood. Anyway, so Dr. Amy, when you teach someone to do something early over here, like 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, when you ask them to do that thing here, it's easier to do. So if you ask people, hey, reflect on this thing, tell me what you're doing, which is what Dr. Amy was doing, and they're writing it down. Then when she goes, hey, now I want you to reflect on this experience and give me feedback, like this is how I get better. They've already done that reflection and feedback portion already, so that when she tees it up, it's like, oh, we've been doing this throughout, and it's easier to do. So it's really, really smart.
It's very hard to communicate to with you, Arel, and this group that I run a Socratic sort of event. And so this give and take has been going on the whole time. There's a story at the beginning to illustrate all this vocabulary. And so this is more of the same. They're giving me feedback and I'm giving them something, and yeah. And they're also, I'm as an educator, I'm very comfortable with silence. So 2 minutes is not a problem. And the way I know that the 2 minutes when I'm in person, sometimes it's 3 minutes is when about half the audience is done. I know I'm allowed to, and this would be true in any classroom, when you've given a group an assignment, when about half are finished, you can move on without freaking people out.
Yep. Do you do anything that, do you wait the 2 minutes, or do you pick up on the social cues from your audience to see that 50%? How do you process that move on period to the next?
So the 3 times that I've used Talkadot, and it's awesome because I'm gregarious, but I'm an introvert, and it's very hard to get around a room fast, and it takes all the pressure off. People give me what they need to when they want to give me. And in that 2 minutes, you're right, it does take 2 minutes, but I get great feedback and beautiful quotes. And sometimes it's gone to 3. when half the audience is done and I know to start. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, no, love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Amy,
I'm so
for
grateful to you for creating
sharing.
this. It just,
Oh, thank
thank
you.
you.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. I love to see that, and appreciative of you. If you want to throw your preferred contact, whether it's LinkedIn or email or Twitter or X or whatever it is, MySpace. If anybody wants to be in my top 5, hit me up. Yeah, I don't remember that. Y'all too young. Um, anyway, so if you want to throw any of that in, folks want to connect with you and learn more about your work or connect with you, please do so in the chat. That would be absolutely lovely.
Thank you, sir.
Um, all right, so we're gonna move over to Jason Brooks now. Jason Brooks, unmute yourself so I can
Yes, yes,
spotlight
yes.
you. There we go.
Can you hear
There's
me? Can you hear
Jason.
me?
We can hear you. We hear you just fine, brother. All right, so Jason,
Excellent.
you have the floor. Again, we're in your audience, so I want you to imagine if there's any kind of context needed to set up what you're about to do that. But imagine we are your audience. You are teeing it up and just go through the process as if you're actually at a speaking engagement and we're paying you the big bucks to do what you do.
Got it. So just to let everyone know, I call this putting the crowd's hand into the cookie jar. That's my approach to using Talkadot. So thank you, Bar and Restaurant Expo. I tell you what, Questex knows how to put together a conference. They are amazing. But before we get started, I know it's popular these days to get on stage and talk for about 2 hours with 2 pictures on 2 slides. Now that's impressive, but this is Bar and Restaurant Expo. And with all the after parties this week, it may be a blur. So I made my deck a little bit different. It's a bit more educational. And guess what? I'm gonna give you the chance to download this entire deck at the end of this presentation. So you can just kick back, relax, and just enjoy this session instead of having to feel like you have to take notes or snap pictures on every slide. If you still want to take notes, that's just fine. Now, let's get started. We all hear voices. Now, I know that's a crazy question. So stop scene there. I go into my talk. It goes through, I'm going all the way through. Then I'm getting to the Talkadot slide. See, so in the beginning, I had them put their hand in the cookie jar of don't take notes. I want you to relax. Because now when it comes to the end, it's like, oh, snap, I didn't take any notes. How can I get my notes? So now I'm going to go back into scene. So how many of you feel that you now view managing, leading, and coaching a little bit differently than when you first walked in this session? Raise your hands. Excellent. This is good because as speakers, sometimes we don't know how we resonate with our audience. So I want you to do me one favor. Pull out your phones. Now, don't act like that's hard. Some of you have been on your phone for the whole session. Pull out your phones. And I want you to scan this QR code. With this QR code, you're going to have the opportunity to give me feedback because when I do workshops with teams like yours to help make them better managers, leaders, and coaches, it's feedback like yours that helps me to make this better for your teams. So scan this QR code. There will be a few questions. After you answer the questions at the very end, you have the opportunity to download this entire deck. Take your time, no worries. Once you're done, pick your head up, just so I can see your pretty little smiles, face towards the stage, and then I can know when you're almost all done, and then I'm gonna give you my last thoughts. End scene. And then, of course, then I kick back in once everyone's head is up. Now, I have probably a 90 to 95% fill out rate of the amount of audience filling out the surveys. One, because I forced their hand into the cookie jar in the beginning. I tell them, I want you to relax. I want you to enjoy that session. That has me getting some of the highest amounts of feedback. every single time. I've used Talkadot 6 times now. I have five, I was going to say six, five more gigs through the end of this year. I have it all teed up. And every single time, at least 90% of the audience fills out that survey. And that's about it. I do have one bonus, but I'm gonna kick it back over to Aurel first with any other questions. And then I do have one bonus for these listeners right now.
Yeah, so I'll tell you one thing that Jason did there that I want to point out, which is really, really smart. And I don't know if you did this on purpose. I think you probably did. But if anyone didn't catch it, I want to bring it to your attention. So not only did he, as he said, put the hand in the cookie jar, he created an in-group and out-group. So he said, normally you used to see speakers who do 2 slides and they don't really do blah, blah, blah. This is different. So this is the in-group, right? So the out-group, that's how they do it. Here's how we're going to do this. This is going to be different and special. So by creating an in-group and out-group in the beginning, it makes you go, well, I want this now. Oh, I'm curious about this. And I am a huge advocate of this. I personally do this as well. And it works so, 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 so well. When you tell people, put your pens down, be present, they appreciate you. You probably see people let out an Excel and they're
Yes.
like, oh, thank you. Like, because I don't want to miss anything,
Mm-mm.
but I want to be locked in. And then ideally you say hot fire. And then they're like, golly, I'm so mad at myself because I didn't write it down or I didn't get my phone out to take a picture. And then it's like, oh, but it's good because he got me. It's going to increase the desire for it. And there were 2 jokes that he said that I thought were really, really good. I might steal one of them, which is, I want you to take your phones out. Don't worry. I seen some of y'all. Y'all been on your phone this whole presentation. Don't act you wasn't buying something on Temu, right? Like you can make a joke with it. And like, again, if it's appropriate.
It's Temu. It's Temu.
Temu.
Super Bowl said it's Temu.
That goes to show you I've never ordered anything on Temu. I just read them in the news. I don't know. They got in trouble. I went on that website. They were selling like a car for like 48 cents. They were like, no, you can put your family and drive to the supermarket. It's 48 cents for the whole car. Temu or whatever it's called. I don't know why I shouldn't have said that. Second thing he said is pretty smiles. I like that. It's like look up so I can see your face. So I can see those pretty smiles or see those beautiful smiles or wonderful smiles, or you got such wonderful, whenever you can compliment your audience, you'll see certain speakers do it. Like, this is the best looking audience I've ever spoken to. People compliment your audience, but it does go very far. So it's really, really, really good. So I love that. Any other insider baseball? I know you said there was a bonus there, like any other insider baseball, anything else there before we move on?
So in the chat, can anyone who does one-on-one coaching put a yes in the chat? If you do one-on-one coaching, put a yes in the chat. Excellent, 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 excellent. Wow. Okay, so here is a bonus for you, okay? If you have Talkadot Pro, now there is the option to put in your own custom question. Now, in the past, this wasn't there. I think it's because, this is just me, because we can sometimes get crazy with our questions. Talkadot did their thing of what are the best questions to ask to get short answers to where people go on to the next question. And so it may have been reeled in for us not to have that, but now we have that option. With the bonus question, though, let's think about this differently. How can we make more money in what we do? So I just added my bonus question as, are you interested in one-on-one coaching with Jason? Simple question, yes or no. Now you have the people that are in your audience that want one-on-one coaching, able to just say yes. You have their name, their email, all that good stuff, and you're able to have all of that information. And yes, you may get $5,000 off of 60 minutes. But what about another $5,000 per person over the next 3 months of people that heard you speak, are now connected with you, how you speak, how you teach, and they want to sign up for your one-on-one coaching. So be sure, use that open question wisely. Make it short, make it sweet, but make it something you can build sales off of.
Yeah, I highly encourage that for anyone who does coaching to say, "Hey, are you interested?" A lot of people in your audience are going to want more of you. If you offer an opportunity for people to get more of you, whether it's courses, coaches, whatever, having people raise their hand that's not speaking related to those things, it's just a really, really, it's low hanging fruit, and I highly recommend it. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So, thank you, Jason. Your inside
And
baseball.
I
It's
put
so
my
appreciated.
LinkedIn in the chat. If y'all want to connect to talk about more tips and tricks, get at me, dog. I'll talk
Hit
to y'all
up
later.
hit up Jason. He is the bee's knees, as we would like to say. So thank you so much, Jason. That was absolutely wonderful. And someone had mentioned in the chat that I saw, but like, oh, but I like to take notes. You're not telling people don't take notes, right? That's the most important thing, right? You're saying, hey, you don't have to. If I'm someone who knows, no, I focus better when I'm writing, you're not going to shame those people. So what I typically say to introduce that is the language that I found feels comfortable for my mouth is, if you're like me and you don't like to take notes, don't worry. I'm going to give you everything that we talked about. I'm going to give you a 5-minute video, a 1-page summary, access to the images that we talked about here, and a link to the research that I do. If you do like to take notes, by all means, go ahead and do so. I got your back either way. So it just gives people permission to, and most people will drop their pen. The people who keep writing are typically the people who sit in the front row. They got post-it notes, they got different colored pens, they got highlighters, they ready to go. This isn't their first rodeo. You let them ride. You let them ride. All right, we got Lisa Hammett next. Lisa, are you ready to rock, Lisa?
I'm ready to roll.
All right. So do you need you kind of get the flow of it? We're gonna let you tee up. Is there anything that I can do to help support, like tee you up or anything? Are you ready to jump in?
Nope, I'm ready.
All right.
Let's do
So
it.
everyone, do me a favor. First of all, thank you to Jason. Give me a little surprise, little like wave celebration, and let that move that celebration over into Lisa. Lisa, the floor is yours.
So to give you a little setup, about 20 minutes into my 60 to 90-minute presentation, I discuss different saboteur traits, and it's very interactive in the audience. And I conclude that section by asking everybody, now that you know about those 10 saboteur traits, which ones resonate with you? And then people just shout out what they're doing. And then I give this little teaser and say, towards the end of my presentation, you are going to have an opportunity to take a very brief survey that will enable you to actually be able to determine your top saboteur traits. So if that is of interest, you definitely want to stay tuned for that. And then I just continue on with the presentation. Then, as I'm wrapping up on my final point of the presentation, I will say, and I have taken this, Aurel, directly from you, and it totally works. Did you learn anything today? Is there anything here that resonated with you? Everybody's like, yeah, this was great, loved it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And then I pop up the slide, the Talkadot slide, and I'll say, the best thing that you could do for me is to take this really short survey. Now, remember when I told you earlier that you had an opportunity to take a saboteur assessment so that you can determine your top saboteurs? This is where you get it, in addition to some other goodies, and then I share what those are. And I said, it's 2 minutes of your time, and I'm always building it into my presentation. I just watch it on my watch, grab water. I'm usually walking around anyways throughout my presentation. And then what I've started doing, and this has actually even boosted up my responses even more, is, so I brought 2 copies of my book here, and I want to give to the first 2 people who complete this assessment, I would like to give you a copy of my book. So people are, frantically doing that. They're really excited. And I said, and one of the giveaways that you're going to get in addition to the assessment is a workbook that pairs with it. And then I give a brief little spiel about, this is the best way for me to know if my message is resonating with the audience. So if you like something, please include that. If there's something I didn't do so well, or maybe something that I just missed altogether, please include that, because I really do look at this feedback, and I have actually adjusted my presentation at times in the past based on that audience feedback. So I have gotten some really great feedback as a result. My feedback results are between 80 and 90%, and giving away those books actually has really helped it. And people still do it. And then after about 2 minutes, I give a final takeaway. And it's usually a question of how they can apply what we've discussed in the presentation. And that's it.
Oh, I love it. So there's a couple of things I want to point out here because there's a technique called salting. My main man Jonathan Sprinkles taught me this many years ago. I find it to be true. That old tried and true phrase of you could bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Unless you give him a salt tablet. And then you make them really thirsty for something. She did a great salting technique because she was like, hey, I have this awesome assessments. By the time people are done, they're going to want to know. People love assessments. They love like, what's my love language? What Ninja Turtle am I? If I was a 19th century composer, which composer would I be, right? Like people love those kinds of things, but this one's actually beneficial and useful. So by teeing up, hey, I'm going to give you that assessment and there's a way for you to find that out. And then she says, I'll do that later. She just dropped a salt tablet. So now people are like, oh my gosh, like they're thinking about it. And as she goes through them, people are going to want that more and more. So not only like teasing it, but like salting, like making people go, oh, I'm going to get this really cool thing. Now you had mentioned you give away your book and your workbook. How do you know which one gave it up first? Like, do you do it at the end? And then how do you do that portion, the actual book physical giveaway?
So I'm actually doing it while they're taking the assessment. So what I failed to mention is I'm going to give a copy of my book to the first 2 people who complete the assessment. And if you would raise your hand if you would raise your hand when you're done, so then I'll run around and I'll give them the book. But they want to keep going because I've kind of dribbled on them and talked about the assessment that they get for free. So I don't really, it's overall when I've done that, it's increased my performance, or I should say, yeah.
The response rate. And there's a specific phrase you use that I just wanted to call out in case anyone missed it, because it's actually, if you could verbatim it or as close to, just get the soul of it. You don't have to verbatim it. You just need to get the soul of what Lisa said. She said, the best way for me to know if my message is resonating with the audience is for you to let me know the best way for me to know if my message is resonating. It's a wonderful way to put it, because if people were like, oh my gosh, no, this is resonating, they're going to want to tell you. Also, if it's not resonating, it's a wonderful way for me to, instead of me saying you suck, I'm saying it's not resonating. Right.
Yes.
Like and that's fine. Like I like to say things like, it's not my cup of tea. It's other people could like it, but I've never used the word resonating, but I immediately can see why that word would be so, it allows people to share what they don't like, but not feel bad about it either. So it's a really, really great thing. And again, this is how we make those 1% improvements. So I think that's awesome. Any other inside baseball you want to share with us, Lisa, before we
I don't think so. There was a couple, I'm trying to go back. There were a couple questions.
Oh, I'm not even looking at the chat here.
One says, for those who speak at conferences, which I speak at a ton of conferences, there's no time to sit and wait for folks to complete a survey. Yes, there is. You build it into your presentation and you practice, because my typical presentation link is about 60 minutes. I do have a keynote that goes to 90, and I just did one that was 45 minutes. And I had to really tighten up some spots to allow enough time for this. You just have to practice. You can fill it in. You can.
The key there is, if you have a 60-minute talk, at the end of the 60 minutes is not when you want to ask people to do Talkadot and have them sit down. That's going to create people to be like, nah, son, I gotta go. But if you have a 60-minute talk, if you do it at minute, say 50 or minute 55, then people can sit down and do it. If you do want to do it at the very, 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 very end, you can. And I tell people, like, play this music however you want. So there are people who at the end go, oh, by the way, if you want to get my assessment, fill out that, let me know. Thank you so much. Goodbye. You just typically get a lower response rate. That's all. So if it's more comfortable for you to do it at the very, very end, do it, because everyone has a different way of doing it. If you do want to get like these 90% response rates, that 2 to 3 minute build in your allotted time is what we've seen over and over gets those best response rates.
One really quick thing that I just remembered. I do make a point of also, I ask people to take out their phones. I have been at conferences where Wi-Fi is not good and they can't take the survey. So I make sure that I am pointing out the link. And then I say, if you can't take the survey, take a picture of this screen. The link is on there. And then I'll get a bunch of surveys that come in after they get back to their room or somewhere else, because that can
100% right.
happen.
And for any of you who's like, wait, what is she referencing? Let me just show this very quickly, because I think it's worth just showing. So if I take out my phone and scan this QR code, which means I open up the camera app and point it towards the QR code, a link pops up. The person can also take a picture of it and then manually type in talk.ac/Moody and then enter code when prompted. So telling people, because I've been in, sometimes it just happens, right? So if someone throttles the Wi-Fi, or you're in the middle, like I did a presentation in Nebraska in a barn in a cornfield, ain't no reception out there. So I said, yeah, I'll take a picture of it, get back. Now I probably got about 30% of the audience to give me feedback. So it wasn't normally, but I'll take 30% over 0% all day, every day. So cool. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Oh, Misha, did you have a question for Lisa? Misha? No? Oh, your hand's just up. I don't know, your hand went up. Okay. Dan Faill.
Sorry, I was trying to applaud.
Oh, that was an applause. Okay, I see what happened there. Thank you so much, Misha and Lisa. All right, Dan Faill, where you at, Dan?
I don't know. I think he left.
Where are you? Hold on.
He left. He's gone.
No, he's not. He's right there. I'm looking right now. For those of you who don't know, Dan Faill said he left. Dan, thank you so much for being here. Dan, I gotta give you a quick personal shout out. Dan is an OG charter member of Talkadot. Dan has this dude, when our tool, when I tell you, was bare bones, the first version of it, when I say bare bones, I'm talking about bare bones. Dan was like, nah, I see the future with this. I'm rolling with you. Dan has thousands and thousands of responses and has directly, if you like some of the feedback, for example, the merge feature, you can thank Dan Faill for things like that. We listen to all of our speakers. We're very, very attentive. And earlier on, Dan was the person who said to us, like, listen, I might do multiple presentations in the same day. I need to figure out how to merge. Like, I can't have these straight responses. We're like, yeah, dude, that's actually a really great feature. So anyway, I just want to give you some flowers for being an OG charter member and for helping make the tool better. So just giving you those flowers, brother.
Well, let me give the flowers right back to say that y'all are so incredibly responsive with figuring it out, and then also letting us know that, like, all right, that is a priority, but not our main priority right now, but like we'll get to it. And so, like, I just want to shout you and the rest of the team out for always being incredibly responsive, creating an environment.
We will always get to it. It may not just be tomorrow. That's all.
Exactly.
All right, Dan, anything I can do to set you up before you jump in?
No, I've got about 60 seconds or less until I'm supposed to be in a consulting appointment. So I'm going to fly through this.
Oh, man. Golly, we should put you
all
first.
Good. All good, brother. All good. I feel like a lot of it has actually already been covered in terms of ways to do this. So I will kind of do a little bit of hopping around. Like Arel said, so I've got just over 5,000 responses on my Talkadot. I've been using it. I don't know. I'm looking at it like just under 70 presentations over the last couple of years. A lot of conferences as well, which is why I'm like, how do we do all the different codes and all that kind of stuff? And really, I think my style is going to be pretty similar to Jason's on how we all set it up. So like, shout out to you, Jason, for doing a lot of that great work. I'll do something similar and also what I'll say is for every keynote that I have, I've created a handout. Even if I don't like put it out in the world, I have a handout that I've created in like Microsoft Word or whatever, and just saved as a PDF. And so every single keynote, so for conferences, when I pitch to keynote, I'm like, hey, I've also got a handout that I give to everyone at the end. And that's been pretty successful, landing a couple of leads. If I'm unsure, depending on the audience that I have, I will just put my TEDx or in my TED Talk like link as just put TED as the word rather than anything else, if it's not like a big enough group to warrant handouts or anything like that. I do similarly to Amy, and I set it up at the beginning, like, don't feel like you got to take notes. So if I welcome everyone, thank you all. Thank you for the shout out to the DJ for the great walk-up music. For those that love to take notes, don't feel like you have to. At the very end of this, I will either give you all my slides, I will give you a handout so that you can continue this engagement and learning after I leave, because what starts here for thoughts should not end here for processing. So I want to make sure that we continue this learning, and that's why I want to give you these resources at the end. So don't worry, I got you. Fast forward through Keynote. That's very funny, very engaging, as it should be. Okay, so remember at the beginning when I said I got you? Now here's that moment that I need some of your feedback. So before I get into this last story, and I should quickly note, my last name is Faill, so I do a lot of talks around failure because it's a missed marketing opportunity if you don't. So I've created this concept of the phases of failure. So now that I've walked you through the phases of failure, from vulnerability to creativity, from passion to learning and failure itself, we've talked about safety and what that looks like. I'm always curious what resonated with you. I always want to know how I can continue to impact lives positively so that I can continue to improve this. Because when I say I use your feedback, I use your feedback. You make this experience better, just like I hopefully gave you a different way to want to fail. Now, here we go. Put up on the screen, you got a QR code. Usually people tell you to put your phones away. I'm telling you to get your phones out. Shout out to those who never put them away, you rebel you. So what I want you to do is go ahead and take out your phone, point the camera. For those who are maybe a little tech challenged, that's okay too. There's a link that you can fill out later. Just take a picture, come back to it. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this and I'm going to give you about 2 minutes. And in these 2 minutes, I want you to give some thoughts on what impacted you, but I also want you to know, or I want to know what you thought from this as well. So take about 2 minutes.
Next year's gonna be better than this year. Next year's gonna be better than this. Cause New Year's Eve coming with the fresh kiss. Next year's gonna be better than.
Play about 2 minutes worth of the song. I see Zoom's flagging me for like not using whatever. It's fine. Okay, so thank you everyone. Now here's what the thing. I said I was going to do this real quick story. Bear with me. I will put up this QR code if you did not get a chance. I'll put it back up in just a second. Now, one of the things that often people come back up to me and they're like, well, vulnerability is great and all, but I don't even know where to start. Everybody do me a favor real quick. If you're willing and if you're able, go ahead and raise your hands as high as you can. Like raise your hands as high as you can. Okay, I see some of you trying. Some of you are like, I am going as high as I can. Like some of you didn't even know you were going to get stretches today, right? This is like yoga 2.0. But you're still sitting down. Why aren't we standing up higher? Why aren't we trying to do a little bit more? I want you to try for 3% better tomorrow, this week, this month. I want you to try to be 3% better, 3% more vulnerable, 3% more curious, 3% more bored to unlock that creativity that you have. Because that 3% can become 6%, 12%, 24%, 48% math, 96%. That continues to be exponential. So as we continue to grow, as we continue to feel uncomfortable, that small moment can continue to shift us forward in so many impactful ways. Put slide back up. Y'all, I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to continue to hang out if you've got any questions, but I want to thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Dan, if you didn't have to run, if you watch this recording, I'm going to break down.
I texted my consultant person, said I'd be about 10 minutes late. So I got a couple more minutes.
Oh, you do have, oh man, listen, you out here. You're out here making dreams come true, man. Not all heroes wear capes. So there's a couple of things I want to point out. What Dan did is he actually, the feedback felt baked into the actual cake, right? Like the presentation itself, he folded in so many elements into it. So when he's asking for it, it's not simply asking for feedback. It's actually tying into the whole idea of the message. It's tying into the whole idea of it. So that obviously takes a little bit more time and intentionality, but there's a reason why. I mean, how many feedback responses roughly do you have on your thing?
5,050.
Right. So there's a reason that over 5,000 people have given feedback, because that's very much baked in. It's very much, it felt to me like I was listening to the presentation and you just happened to go into that part of the presentation, which like, was supposed to be there. So that is an incredible, incredible thing. Is there any inside baseball or anything that you've noticed, or any like small 1% improvements you made that got you to this? Because obviously this isn't your first rodeo, and you do something that well, because that was phenomenal.
Well, I'll say that I speak a lot to college age audiences. That's a vast majority of what I have. So usually my audiences are mandated to be there. So there's nothing that says like they're going to be engaged, like mandatory attendance, or they're at a conference. And so I think what I've been able to do, and it's kind of already been mentioned, but you've got to bake in, so to speak, you got to build that time in to get the feedback. And where I've run into some issues is when a keynote or like at a conference, they're like, hey, thanks for being on the main stage. You can't put up your QR code because we need them to complete our survey. And we don't want them to complete yours. We want them to complete ours. Depending on your rapport with that event planner, I've been able to do both. And so I'll set it up to where it is where I pull up Talkadot twice. I'll pull up theirs first and say, y'all give the conference some feedback and love. And at the end, I'm going to give you some giveaways. And so I've set it up to try to do both in QR code, depending on how they do. So that way it's honoring what the conference wants while still me getting some love and some of those different attendees feedback. So I think that's one of them. I'll be honest, when I say that I'm going to give you the slides, or when I'm going to give you a handout that I create, that it tends to get me the most. And I usually set it up with, again, whichever event contact it is, to let them know, hey, if you want to see this handout ahead of time so that you know what they're getting, here you go. By the way, I'll customize it for your conference, for your group, for whatever. Again, depending on what I quote them, I'll end up just customizing it for all of that.
Got it. No, I think this was so good, man. So solid. I'm actually going to probably rewatch yours, because there's probably so many elements that either intentionally or unintentionally were masterful. It was watching a piece of art. That was beautiful, Dan. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
No,
and
it
seeing
really was
some of the other stuff in here. So I saw like Amy asked, do I have a list of those key points you're embedding? Again, it's dependent on the keynote, depending on, because I'll ask the event planner ahead of time if you want, because I'm seeing a lot with higher ed conferences now, they want handouts. Like it's mandatory to have a handout for their conference for every session. I'm also one of those just masochists that I will present at every single ed block, even if I'm keynoting. So I offer that up because, again, it's just showing that I'm there for the conference, not just there for the keynote. And so I couldn't even tell you how many codes I have. I probably have over double digits of code. Oh, I have 17 total codes. And so I've created so many one-off codes to just be able to use that. And whether that's my TEDx on failure or my TEDx on imposter syndrome, I ask what makes the most sense for that event planner. And then again, this is where like, and Rel will shout this from the rooftops, I will as well. As soon as I get that feedback, I copy my entire speaker profile and send it to the event planner in the moment and say, hey, thanks again. This is what your audience just mentioned about everything. And that's gotten me probably 3 or 4 return gigs.
And I'm a big advocate in this. And again, Dan is correct that I shout this from the rooftop. He does. Getting data right into the hands of your clients at the event is so crucial. I found that I have downloaded my images and I text them to my clients, has been my like primary way. I used to show them on my laptop, but I've just found that I like to text them and be like, here's the quick data. I get my 2 favorite testimonials that I can spot. And then I say, I'm going to send you this full report. I just wanted you to see the impact we made together. And the joy they have, like I literally just spoke for a group who was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. How did you get it so quickly? That feedback and that spike of dopamine and that drop of cortisol of it was actually well received, assuming it was, is so crucial for people wanting to work with someone like you again. So Dan, I know it's 5:10, you got to go, or whatever time it is in California. Thank you for being here, brother. Go talk to your consultant. You're a legend.
Appreciate y'all. Thanks,
You're a legend.
Talkadot.
We appreciate you. Unicorns lifting as we climb in, magical human beings. All right, so here's what we're gonna do now, y'all. Number one, this was really, really, really fun. I think we should do more of these. I'd love to get more gists and more ideas of what people are doing. What I promised earlier, and we're gonna fulfill on that promise, even though we are technically over on the hour. By the way, if anybody wants to ever present, how you do it now that you've seen this and you're like, ooh, like I do some stuff that's maybe a little bit different or unique, click on that Google Forms link, fill it out, let us know. We're gonna keep track of this, because the more and more we can diversify different ways people are kicking out Talkadot to their people and succeeding, we want to do that. So we're gonna do some coaching now. Santu, did you want to do this now? I saw you, Janice, I see your hand going up. I'm gonna get you, but we had some folks who had filled it out beforehand. I'm gonna walk you through it if you want to do it, or I could jump into Janice.
Yes.
You let me know.
No, you go ahead
Wait,
with
do
me.
you want to do it?
Yeah.
You want to do it? Yeah, you want to do it? How do you say your first name so I'm not like butchering it?
You have pronounced it correctly. It is Santu,
Oh,
like the
Santu.
number two.
Okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. So one of the just for clarity, there's a question, at least I have in my notes, and tell me if my notes are wrong. Questions around additional incentives can offer so people can complete Talkadot feedback, and good ways to introduce it in the middle so that people can complete it by the end. Is that correct?
I've got an additional question based on the last showcase.
Yeah.
So the question was around providing 2 QR codes, one for the audience members and one for the manager.
Yep.
I didn't quite catch what he was saying, and I
Copy
don't
that.
know if he was saying to do that, and if so, he was talking so fast, I didn't grab how to do that. So
I
maybe
got
you
your
could
back.
speak on that. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'll revisit. So the first question that you had asked is, what are additional incentives I can offer to people to complete the Talkadot feedback so I can get their email address? I always recommend 2 categories of feedback. Excuse me, 2 categories of bonuses. The first is, here's a review of what just happened. And the next is, here's the next step I want you to take because you heard my talk, right? Those are going to get the best responses. I like doing the review because, one, it's easier for me. My review is typically my slide deck. I just export my slide deck as a PDF, and then I give away my slide deck. So it's like no extra work. One of the things that I have done is I have created a URL on my website that's got a 5-minute video summary of my talk, a 1-page summary of the different stages we talk about, and a link to a research paper that I reference. So that took some time to build, and then I give away the URL that's got all those things on one page.
Wait, slow down.
Oh, sorry.
So the first one was a video.
5-minute video summary.
5-minute video of your talk.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, of what you just gave, right?
Exactly.
Okay, got
whatever
it.
I just spoke about, I just had a virtual, I did a Zoom, and then I had an editor just cut it down to a 5-minute version of the Zoom. That's all. So it's Zoom. The content is similar to what I talk about in person, so I haven't made an in-person version. So it's just a Zoom version of it. I do a 1-page summary of the key points that I covered in my talk. So people can, like, just if they want a refresher, they can get the 1 page. And I have an image that typically people take their phones out and take a picture of this image during my talks. So if you have a slide deck and you notice a lot of people take their phones out and take a picture of it, I give away that image because I know people want it. And in my talk, I reference a research paper that people typically are like, well, how do I get access to that research paper? And I go, I'll give it to you at the end. It's really good. I recommend reading it. And that's that. So those are the things that because that's relevant to my particular talk. But you can put anything, again, the easiest thing, if I'm doing a brand new talk or for anything that's not my signature keynote, I just give a copy of my slide deck as a PDF.
Yep, that I knew. That's why I asked for additional information, because I've seen you talk before and I knew that that's what you did, which I think is brilliant. But yeah, it was just whether there was any additional ones. But I
Yeah.
think some of the other people in the showcase have answered that question as well. They've given some good ideas.
Yeah, and I would say everyone in the chat, if you give away something different, throw it in the chat so we can get a list of it. Some things that I've seen, again, Lisa talked about the assessment she gives away. I think that's pretty cool. If you have a book, turn it into an ebook. It's very simple. Give away the ebook. Nick gives away 23 questions that's normally sold as a PDF. Toolkits, I think, are great if you can say, like, here's a list of great resources. Here's some great, like, if there's any tools or hacks, or like, these are my favorite, a list of my 20 favorite AI tools, or the, playlists. I thought that was always interesting. Like, here's my favorite playlist. Or I've seen someone give away a guided meditation video. It's obviously relevant to their talk, but they give away a guided meditation. If you have anything that's like a spreadsheet that might be useful for people, If there's any questions that are helping for reflection. So for example, if you're talking about how to be a better leader, here are my favorite, and you talk about a particular subject, like here's my favorite questions for self-awareness for leaders to ask, and like, or here's what I want you to do. So what you do next is like, here are the questions I want you to ask in your next meeting. But these are all really, really, really good things that I think you can give away. Mindfulness cards created on Canva, pretty cool. So these are all great bonuses. The thing that I always think about is, imagine if you were in your audience's seat and I was listening to me talk. What would I want to give me that would benefit me? And I always do it from a me perspective, because when I try to do it for a group, they become this faceless blob. But if I do it like, if I or Rel knew nothing about this subject and someone talked to me about the subject that I know about, what would I be most curious about? And I create that thing for me. I find that always works a bajillion% more effectively than like, I think everyone would like it. I think of it as one person, and usually that person is me. And usually if people resonate with me, they'll resonate with the work that I do. So that's kind of my thought process behind it. Does that answer that part of the question for you?
Yes, thank you.
Great. What Dan was referring to was, sometimes your host will have their own feedback on like SurveyMonkey or Hoova app or something else, and they want the audience to give feedback to them. And typically, not always, but typically, that feedback is for the overall event. The overall event.
Yep.
So what Dan was saying is, he will introduce their QR code first and say, yeah, I'll give some feedback over to the host. Let them know what you thought about this. And this is how they get their, event. So I give them, and then the language I use, which Dan didn't necessarily particularly say, but the language that I use when my client has their own is, I'll say, please give that. That's how the event organizer gets better. This little feedback here, this is how I get better at what I do. This is just for my particular presentation, and this is going to help me know what you want. And here's, the bonuses you're going to get. So make sure to fill out that one, because we want this event to be amazing, and your host will 100% read those. And if you'd like to give me some feedback as well, that would be amazing, and I would love to know what you think. So I always edify the host first and make that one seem more important, because ultimately it is. Right? Like ultimately, like from a service perspective, service the client. And then, hey, if you want to give me some feedback. And I've not noticed that my feedback has ever dropped when I've done that. And my host loves it, because one, they get more feedback, and more is always better. So I always recommend, like, don't cannibalize your host's feedback tool. Make sure to elevate them, edify them. Yep.
Yeah, so you get the QR code from the host first and then show that first, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, thank you. Well, that segues really nicely into my next question.
Yep.
Because you're now having to provide them with 2 QR codes, now how would you do that? Either at the beginning, middle, or end? Like, I mean, I think it's a good idea to reference it at the beginning, to say these feedbacks or feedback QR codes are coming up. Do you split them? Could you do one in the middle, one at the end, or do you both in the middle?
I personally wouldn't. I personally would do them both at the end.
Well, the reason I'm asking about in the middle is because I want to give them quite a lot of time to fill out the feedback forms. I mean, I don't take 3 minutes. I take 5 to 10, because I'm a very thoughtful thinker and I want to give a comprehensive response. So I don't even think playing a song for 3 minutes and giving them 3 minutes is enough time for people to think and to type or write.
Yeah, so if you wanted to like get like, if it's like a reflection, what I might do is this. Here's how I might do it. And again, I since I don't know exactly what you talk about, what I'm saying might not fit perfectly, but here, and I've done deep reflection when I do a 1-day program, and I actually I don't want people to be like, it was cool. You was with me for 8 hours. You gonna give me some feedback, right?
Yeah.
So the custom question is a reflection question for them, right? So the custom question that you can add to Talkadot might be a question like, out of everything we talked about here today, what resonated with you the most and why? Right? So that might be an example of the reflection question I might ask. And that's one that I did for a leadership program, right? Now, what I'm going to do is say, hey, everyone, I want you to reflect on this experience, and I want you to reflect on what happened, and your responses we're going to do something with, right? Now, I want you to scan this QR code and give me your thoughts and feedback on this particular presentation. And one of the questions you're going to get is, what was the thing that most stood out to you and why? And I really want you to answer all those other questions too. Those are important, but I really want you to spend some time on that one. I really want you to give me an in-depth answer. And what I've done with that is I've also you can make those answers public or private on Talkadot. If they're public, you can share those with the client. If they're private, I typically would do something with them. Like, I might take all those answers, throw them in a ChatGPT, which is what I did for my client, and say, what are the top 3 takeaways that the audience got from this talk? And I throw them all in the ChatGPT. ChatGPT processes it and says, based on audience feedback, these are the top 3 things that they got. And then I provide that in an executive summary for my client. So that's an example. And then you just create 10 minutes in your talk, because you're not just getting feedback on yourself, you're getting this reflection feedback that's part of your talk. So I would make your custom question like that in-depth, longer part, create the 10 minutes, and then you're still getting all the data you need for the data component, but you're also getting like that deep, thorough answer. And it's part of it versus like tacked onto it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but now that so let me just clarify, are we only two questions. Are you allowed to ask a custom question on the light program? And do
A
you
pro
only
feature
get
only. Yeah, it's pro
for
only.
pro only? Yeah. And for the pro feature, then are you saying we have to compete with asking, do you want to work with me one-to-one, or this deeper reflection question? Like,
In
can we
this use case, yes. In this use case, yes. So you have to
uh,
decide which one of those is more important. And if you want to do the longer
no,
reflection earlier, do it on a piece of paper. And if you want to do it in one-on-one
no,
coaching question, you could do that later.
no, what I meant was, on the pro account, can we ask 2 custom questions?
Yeah, no, you cannot right now. The answer is no. So you get one custom question. We are currently working on customization so that you'll be able to add additional questions and change them. So that is coming. Right now, you've got to decide one additional question. And the reason why we have relented as an organization, but one of the reasons why we've tried to kind of push people off from adding too many questions is because when the survey gets too long, you might be interested in all the feedback, but there's something called
Mm,
survey fatigue, where people,
yeah.
if you've ever taken a survey, you just bounce in the middle of it. So we purposely constrained it so people only ask those most important questions. But we constantly have been getting this feedback, like, I want to ask more questions, I want to ask more questions. So we are adding that feature. We're actually actively working on that right now, and that will be released to the world shortly. But right now, you've got to decide, is it this one or is it that one?
Okay, and let me just, I may have missed some things that you said because I'm writing down at the same time. So in terms of like where to position the questions, sort of, so what you're saying is you would ask a longer, deeper reflection question towards the end, but your answer is you would still do it at the end. However, I did get an idea as you were talking, and I don't know if this is what you meant, but what if they did my QR questions in the middle, or towards middle to end, right? Not at the last minute, but and their response would be how they were experiencing it. And then could I read the responses right there and then? And then we could do something based on their responses, like in the last, I don't know, 5 minutes or something.
100%. Yeah, that's a beauty. When I say this is like music notes, that's a perfect example of like, that's a wonderful way to play it, right? The only thing that I would add as a caveat to consider is you want to make sure you've given enough information that they can adequately rate their experience. If you do it too
Yeah.
soon, I could be like,
Mm.
oh, I didn't get nothing. But if it's like, if they got enough from you, then you can say, hey, I got some of your responses. We're going to read them and do some work with them. I think that's actually really good. I think that's really good.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Satu. Wonderful questions. I hope this is helpful because you're asking questions that other people are curious about, especially if someone's new into our program. So I always can't thank people enough for asking questions, because questions are how we get answers. And sometimes we want answers, but we gotta realize there's questions. So thank you for being so kind and sharing that.
You're welcome.
Janice, I'm going to get you. I see you, girl, with your hand up. I'm going to spotlight you. There we go. What's up,
Hi.
Janice?
This is a much quicker question. I don't quite
Yeah.
understand the logistics
Mhm.
of giving more than one giveaway. when you upload your giveaway or whatever, isn't there just room for one, or how does that
Yeah,
work?
so if you want to give away more than one bonus, this is the logistics of it. Are you familiar with Dropbox by chance?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Okay. You'd be surprised. Some people aren't, so I don't want to like
And I
go, you know, blah, blah.
and I hate Google Docs, but I use them too.
Right. So what I would do is create a Dropbox folder
Okay.
and upload your PDFs or your documents into that folder, and then get the Dropbox link, and in your bonus paste the Dropbox link, and then tell people I'm going to give you access to X, Y, and Z. And then when they click on the link, it's going to open up the folder and then present all the things. That's the easiest way logistically to give away multiple bonuses. But yes, to answer your pre-question, our bonus allows for either a link or a physical document upload. So you can do either. So if you
Or
do
I
the
could
link,
or I could
Dropbox.
direct them to my website, I suppose.
Yeah, that's what I do personally. It's a little more involved, but I have a secret URL on my website
Yeah.
that I paste, and it's directly on my website. It's got all the bonuses, and I can, I'll share this with you because it might be helpful to see
And
it
by
with some
then
folks.
you've already collected their name and email.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah,
So
I have that set up on my website.
yeah, so on this is the link. So this is the video right here that's got like the virtual summary. This is the one page that they can click to download the summary here. This is the link to the 100-page research paper I reference. This is the image that people like to take a picture of. And then if you scroll down, people can jump on my event planner. Like, oh, did you like this? Do you want to hire Rel to speak? Go ahead and click on here and you can hire them to speak. And then like a generic, this contact form is on like every page. So this is how I have mine set up. So it's real simple. It's nothing like that's going to win any design shows, but it gets people what they need. And it's on my web property, which again, it might cause them to click around on my website, which,
Exactly.
I would prefer them to do. For ease, Dropbox, but for like function, I would recommend creating a link on your website.
I
Hey,
love
Raul,
the
do you mind
I
throwing
love
that
the
link in the chat?
I
Yeah.
love the book time with Janice link.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't even think of that. That's so smart.
Whenever you could do a call to action, I highly recommend doing a call to action.
Yeah.
Always recommend doing it. Yeah. So those work really well. And again, it all depends. Some people go, "Oh, I don't know how to build a web page." Then like hire
Oh no, I
someone
I
or
already have
yeah.
one of those from
Yeah.
before Talkadot.
Then you good to go. You good to go, Janice.
Thank you so much.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, we are 2 minutes away from our end time here. I want to thank everyone for joining. This was a wonderful session. I think what I've learned more than anything else is we should do more of these sessions. I think this was super helpful. I
Yep.
want to give a very, 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 very big thank you to all of our folks. Thank you to Sammie. Thank you to Amy. Thank you to Jason. Thank you to Lisa. Thank you to Dan. We are going to do more, Q&A. We have AMAs every single week. So if you have any questions about AMAs, please jump on. And for anyone who did not see it, I'm just gonna bring this up here. And where'd it go? There it is. Okay, great. For anyone who doesn't know, if you want any help or any support or anything like that, like we do have an elite program. So we launched this. It's kind of like a soft launch for it. So we have a new tier. So everyone always hears Light and Pro. If anybody wants to get a little bit more attention or a little more action, you get a 1 hour private onboarding. You get some more features. And if you have a team like VAs or virtual assistants or anything like that, and you want to give them access, but you don't want to give them your main username and password, you can do that with our elite account. So that's something that's really, really cool. And as always, please jump into our community. If you log into your home screen right here and then click on the community button on the left-hand side, this is where you can find out all about the upcoming events that we have. We have onboarding sessions, demo sessions. If anyone is a light user and you want to figure out how to use the tool a little bit better, jump on our onboarding, jump on our AMA, which is a weekly call. But we now also have demos where you can schedule times with Jess from our team, and we have 15-minute slots that we have available for you to learn how to use the tool. So if you're brand new to our tool and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to use it, Just from our team, we'll walk you through it, make sure you're good. If you're a pro user and you feel like you're missing it, we've got these 15-minute slots set up to give you some laser coaching and support. And we just have a really poppin' community, y'all. Look at all this stuff. I'm just scrolling through it. Look at all these wonderful things we have in here. So go into the community, post wins, post questions, make sure to be active in it, because this is how we can help support you in what you're doing. We do these sessions because we care. We do these sessions because we believe in lifting as we climb. And I think you saw from our speakers today that this is the spirit of what Talkadot's about. It's about the more we get to grow, the more we get to impact people, the more we get to do the work that matters to us, the more lives get impacted. And I personally love the idea of living in a world where more positive and more good is done. And that's what we care so much about with Talkadot. So thank you all for being here. I hope you truly, truly enjoyed your time here. If you like this session, my name is Arel Moody. If you dislike this session, my name is David Walker. I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace and love, and all the fun stuff. Appreciate y'all. See ya. Peace.